And welcome to the One Shot Podcast. We are joined today by a very special guest, Darren Golub, who is an entrepreneur, a speaker, a soon-to-be Californian.
So I feel like we should have ended the episode with that because we just lost half our audience. No, I'm just kidding. I can only say that, Aaron, because I'm from California.
Yeah, that's right.
But it's fun to say that you left.
Yeah, he's originally a proud Bostonian. Now he's going to go become a Californian.
All for good reasons. We chatted very briefly,
Yep.
and we're going to get a little bit more into it, but all for great reasons.
Yep. And he's also the first legally blind Division I football player, which is obviously a unique accolade. And so something we want to dive into and really get into the story of that. And Aaron, you've heard the show, you know about the show, but we love going back to the beginning, man. We love setting the stage from day one, figuring out how you grew up, where you're from, all that good stuff, giving our audience a little feel for that. And then obviously what it's led you to today. You're still a young dude, but you lived a lot of life in this short life that you've had. And we're excited, man, to have you on. So first and foremost, how you doing, man? How's Boston today?
Things are good. It's a very busy, as we were talking about before, a very busy week for me, honestly, just dealing with packing everything and just a lot of business stuff going on this week and next. And so it's a lot when you're moving across the country and dealing with a lot of stuff, other, business stuff at the same time. But it's good. It's good. Things are good.
Yeah. You're literally moving this week as we're recording this. So like you said, things are crazy right now. And we'll get into that here later on the episode. But first, we do want to go back. You are from Boston originally, Newtown originally, to be more specific, which every time I think of, is Newtown, right? Or Newton?
Newton.
Okay.
Texas. You are so Texas.
Then maybe I'm an idiot. Well, I am an idiot, but maybe this confirms I'm an idiot because I think of the movie The Town. Is that where the town was?
That's in Boston. Yeah,
okay.
That's in Boston. In Lake Charlestown.
Gotcha. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Well, anyway, so you're from Newton. What was life like growing up? Tell us about life in Newton where you began.
So, for me, I was born with, no vision in my right eye, very limited in my left. Grew up like you said, Newton. Wasn't a very athletic kid growing up by any means. And, it's surprising that I became a Division I athlete, but was not very athletic at all. Tried every sport under the sun: baseball, basketball, lacrosse, hockey, everything. Nothing really stuck. Nothing was a good fit. And, eventually found football. I always loved watching it, but started playing in my 7th grade year.
Nice. Yeah. Let's back up a little bit more. So you were born with no vision in your right eye, minimal vision in your left. But I mean, early on, what kind of adaptations did your parents help you with to teach you to maybe accommodate for the loss of sight in your right eye? Do you have siblings? I mean, what was kind of that dynamic in the interactions in the home?
Yeah, so I have an older sister who's 2 years older than me, and then a much older half brother. So I didn't grow up with him in the house, but grew up with my sister. And I think the biggest things that my parents would do was, when you have a child with that type of disability, it's treating them the same because you need them to learn on their own. And so, look, when a lot of kids struggle with something, the first thing parents want to do is help them out and do it for them. Yep. And that isn't something that my parents did. If I couldn't tie my shoes or if I had trouble with X, Y, or Z, it was watch me struggle with it for, 10, 15 minutes, whatever it took, because I was never going to learn on my own. I was never going to develop as a person and the things I need to do if they didn't force me to do things on my own.
Yeah, a couple of reasons that's impressive on their part. And you're not a father yet, right? You don't have any kids just yet?
No.
Okay. You will understand. Tyler and I both have children. And you're exactly right. It's hard to watch our kids struggle through things. Number one, it's hard just because you don't want them to struggle. But number two, it's frustrating. You just want to get it done, right? And so you're trying to help them just to get it done. And so to your parents' credit, they said, no, he's got to figure this out. So awesome job by your parents by allowing you to struggle, because I know that was tough for them. I know for a fact that was tough for them, so good for them. So you mentioned you got into sports early. Were sports a family thing? Was that kind of just you? What was that like?
Yeah, I mean, not necessarily a family thing. I was a big sports fan. My dad liked sports, things like that, but it wasn't like a huge thing in my family. I always loved it. I wanted to try different sports. I played a ton of different ones, and none of them were really the best fit. None of them really worked well for me until I eventually found football.
Yeah. I imagine being from Boston, Tom Brady probably had something to do with your love for ball.
I mean, we had a lot of great years with them.
Hey, don't bring it up anymore, man. That's
true. I guess that is a rough subject up there in the Northeast.
So seventh grade, you start football. Walk us through that first day, and I'm assuming it was a pads, or did you start in flag?
Started pads, so started seventh grade.
So just went right to it. Okay. So talk us through that first day of practice, because
I knew I couldn't be one of the like coveted positions. I couldn't be a wide receiver. I couldn't be a quarterback. It wasn't going to be what I could do, unfortunately. And so I started as an offensive defensive lineman, but even that, I was undersized. I wasn't very athletic. I wasn't very strong. I was smaller than others. I wasn't the fastest. And so, I started as an offensive defensive lineman, and I wasn't very good, and that was okay. And I understood that on the first day, and it was hard. I understood that the first several years because, in the beginning, I eventually found the right position and the right fit for me, and we'll get into that down the road. But in the beginning, it was challenging. It was hard. It was something that, I had to understand that I was going to be on the bench. I wasn't going to play a ton, and that's challenging for any kid. You want to be on the field every single game. You'd understand why your coach isn't playing you.
Yeah.
So, because I think of how your parents, how they raised you and taught you, was your drive to, do you feel like early on in football, your teammates, your friends, there was like this, all right, we'll take it easy. Like, don't go all the way. Like, he's different. Did you feel that from them? And if so, was it like, because I know internally, like, no, I'm one of the guys. Like, just let's go. Like, let's do this.
So not really. I'm sure that some people in the beginning probably thought that way, but I never thought that way. And so, I would hit someone as hard as I could, and, they would learn very instantly that I wasn't taking it easy. Just maybe the first play, someone would take it easy on me, and then I would just knock the crap out of them. And then they were like, okay, all right, never mind. Next time I'm going to knock the crap out of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So how'd that first year go? Well, I know you said you struggled and didn't maybe get to play as much as you thought, but were you hooked instantly? Did you love it immediately?
Yeah, no, loved it. In middle school, 7th, 8th grade years, I still enjoyed it a lot. I made a lot of friends because of it. I learned a lot of lessons, a lot of experience because of it. Just because you didn't play a ton doesn't mean that it wasn't valuable. Eventually, sure. I played more, but it was 100% worth it.
Yeah. What were some of the lessons that you took away from that middle school time?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is putting the team before yourself. Each and every day in practice, it was at that stage, and so many people go through this in life. When you start a new job, when you start a new business, when you start a new whatever, you want to be the best at it, in every single thing that you do. It's just human nature. And you have to understand that sometimes in life, you're not going to be the best in the beginning. And you have to understand that putting the team before yourself, putting the business before yourself, putting your partner before yourself, whatever it may be, is important for that time period. And now that doesn't need to always last your entire life. In the first few years, I had to put my team before myself. Each and every day in practice, it was, what can I do to learn, to grow, to get better each and every day and help push my team to get better? Now, that eventually changed to, yes, I want to help my team get better, but I need to help myself and push myself. But in the beginning, it was more focused on, I'm not starting, I'm not playing that much. It's okay. How can I learn? How can I get a little bit better? And how can I help my team get better?
Man, I feel like our kids these days need to hear this. Because everything that they're watching, everything they're seeing, everything they're hearing about their idols in the league is all about me. So now we've got, at 8 years old, at 7 years old, these kids that are playing flag football, it's all about me as opposed to, hey, my role right now at this moment is to help my team get better. So like you said, how can I get better so that I can help my teammates get better in practice and the times that we are going against each other? But everything is like, I gotta be very careful when I say this, but there are kids that have zero business doing certain things just because they haven't put in the time, they haven't prepared, they haven't played long enough, whatever, that are saying, oh, no, I should be quarterback. Why am I not quarterback? Or why am I not the receiver? Why am I not this? It's like, listen, like you don't even know how to line up, let alone direct an entire offense or defense. And then, but your job is when you are in is be a good scout team guy or play against him, shadow him. I mean, all of these things we need to be able to count on you. And like you said, putting the team above yourself. If you can't go in and be the best, figure out what you can be the best at. And you can be the best at servicing other players to make the whole team better. Because guess what? If you're on the team and you're a champion, you get a ring too.
Yeah, no, that I totally agree with you. I got to be honest, Aaron and Tyler, I struggled with that in middle school. I struggled with the idea of putting the team first and why am I not playing and, this sucks because I'm not getting the playing time. I did struggle with that.
Yeah. But everyone struggled with that.
Yeah.
And I probably wouldn't, I know I wouldn't have articulated it in this way back then, but I think the biggest focus for me, even in high school in the early years when I wasn't playing much, it was, not necessarily, looking back on it was how can I help my team get better? But back then it was, okay, I'm not playing a ton, but I still like winning. I love winning. What can I do to help us win this game?
Yeah.
And that's probably how I thought of it more that back then, because what can you do if you're not starting, if you're not playing, it's fine. But what can you do to put your team in a position to win?
Yeah, no, that's a great attitude. And again, I didn't think that way. I was very selfish and still am pretty damn selfish. But
that's true. That's true. I'm just thinking like, you're like, dude, I'm wearing the puka shells. I've got the bowl cut. Like, how am I not playing? Like, how am I supposed to grow my following if I'm not playing? I mean, I've got the look. I'm looking the part.
Yeah,
Ben was a big puka shells guy, so.
Yeah, fat kid that never played. Okay, so you go through middle school, the introduction to football. You're loving it. Maybe you're not going to play, but you are loving it. You're loving to contribute to the team. Now we get into high school. Talk to us about the high school years. I want to take a quick break and thank our partners, Sleep Number, and highlight a couple of things they're doing. Guys, these Sleep Number beds are unreal. The technology that they've created, the feedback that it gives you on your sleep. I've got the app opened up right here. They tell you things like your heart rate variability, your breathing rate, all these type metrics and feedback to give you so that you can improve your quality of sleep. They're all over the place. You can go and check yourself out, a Sleep Number store, wherever you live. Go to sleepnumber.com as well. They've got great resources on there. We just talked about this not too long ago. They have a whole blog section, all these articles, things that you can improve your health. Sleep Number is definitely changing the game when it comes to betting. So get yourself to Sleep Number, get yourself to sleepnumber.com and check them out. Now back to the episode.
Yeah, so, same position in the beginning, offense and defensive lineman. And early sophomore year, I was a third string junior varsity center and defensive tackle. And I basically just said, I've had enough. I'm so sick of this, not playing, not being where I want to be, not being as athletic as I want to be. And, I had already been lifting weights and pushing myself to do that because I enjoyed lifting weights. But in that moment, early of my sophomore year, I flipped the switch and I said, I'm going to do whatever it takes to play Division I football, to play the highest level possible. And I said, how can I get there? And I found long snapping. And I said, this unique niche position, if I get good enough at it, then maybe there will be an opportunity for me to play in college, for me to play at a really high level. And from then on out, it was, what do I need to do to get there? And I realized I have to work 10, 20, 30 times harder than everyone else just to be as good as them. So I would wake up at 5 a.m. every day, go practice long snapping, go to school, go to practice with my team, lift weights every single evening. And I did that for the next 3 years because I knew what I had to do to get to where I wanted to go.
That's an interesting mental shift because you just said, I hated it. I was ready to be done with it. I was ready to quit. And then what was the switch?
I wasn't ready to quit, but I was in this position where I hated not playing.
Gotcha.
I liked the camaraderie, I liked the team. And I said, I cannot stand being on the bench. It was, that part was miserable. And so I made the decision that, I'm going to play and I'm going to figure out a way to do it. It might be in a different role than I am right now, but I'm going to play.
How quickly did you get onto the field as a long snapper?
I played some sophomore year on JV when I kind of switched. I obviously wasn't amazing yet. I played a little bit. Yeah. And, from then on out by, junior year, I was, playing. I was, JV starter. And then I think I did field goals on varsity, just not punts. So I started for field goals on varsity, just not punts. And then, senior year, I did both of them. But, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of time. It was a lot of dedication to getting myself to get to where I needed to go. it definitely didn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't sound like an excuse maker. Did you ever struggle with excuses, in that time and thinking this isn't happening because of this, or this isn't going well because of that?
No, not really. I think I've always been of the opinion that, anything is possible if you, work hard and work smart, and you can find a way to make it happen. And, at the end of the day, everything that you don't have or that's wrong in your life, I mean, let's just be honest, it's your fault.
Yeah.
Like you can't blame anyone else. Anything that you don't have or that you want or that is going wrong, at the core of it, yeah, there might be other factors, but at the core of it is your fault. And so most people would probably look back at that situation and say, oh, I wasn't playing because I wasn't athletic. I look back at that situation and say, I don't care that I wasn't athletic. I wasn't working hard enough when I was at that age when I was younger. Now, most 7th, 8th, 9th grade kids aren't going to be waking up at 5 and practicing, aren't going to be lifting weights, and that's okay. But realistically, if I had done that, yeah, I probably would have played. So that's the way I look at it.
Okay. So let's, just after you get done saying no excuses, I didn't work hard enough. Looking back, what obstacles do you think you had to overcome that others didn't, that like you look back, okay, that was a challenge. That was something I had to work through, whether it be, hey, because here's what people do. I was a long snapper too, by the way. And I snapped in a couple games, NFL games, but not, but I was always the number 2 guy. But it is a like precision game. Like you have to put that ball, and you have to put the laces. You have to put it exactly where, like the margin of error is not what people think it is. All right, well, if you get it on his body, no. If a punter's right-footed, if it's not on his right hip, you've got about 9 inches up or down that the punter is like comfortable. That doesn't take him out of his rhythm, his motion. So it is a precision game. And then, for you where, okay, hey, sight lines vision is just different. It is much more challenging. What do you think what are the things that you had to overcome, and how did you overcome them?
I think the biggest thing for me there was getting people to give me that trust, getting people to give me that opportunity. That was the biggest obstacle. Okay. Yeah, I could say the biggest obstacle was my vision, but at the end of the day, it was, how do I get people to believe that I can do this and do this at a high level? How do I get my coaches to trust me to be able to play? How do I get my teammates to trust me to be able to play? And I think that was formed through hard work, through dedication. When my coaches realized I was at school every morning at 5, when my teammates saw me in the weight room every single day after school, they realized that I was putting in the work, the time, and the effort that no one else was putting in. And so I earned that trust.
Was that schedule, was that intuitive? Did you make that schedule yourself? Did you have a mentor saying, hey, here's what you need to do A, B, and C to get better? How did that work?
When it comes to the weightlifting part, I realized that I need to put on weight. I need to gain size. I need to do, things extra. And so that was more myself. However, I had a lot of mentors throughout the years. One in particular, this guy, Steve Burton. And so he, his entire family, incredible athletes. His father played for the Patriots and, was a, Patriots Hall of Famer. He played in college at, I think, Northwestern. His son played at, UCLA, just whole family of athletes. And so every single morning, it was me, my dad snapping, and him and his son throwing. His son was a quarterback. And, I think I learned from him that what do you have to do to get to where you want to go? Every time if I had a bad snap in high school when I was snapping to my dad, he would see it from the corner of his eye and he'd yell over and tell me to give him some push-ups or tell me to do X, Y, Z to, learn from that, just to build that habit of consistency, to build that habit of, look, you can hit the punter in the head right now and practice this one time, but you can't do that in a game. You need to get out of that habit if you want to play in college. I learned that, I think, from him.
Yeah. No, see, I love that. But I like your answer to like overcoming challenges because, yes, physically there's different things that you have to master just technique wise with the position, snapping, speed. There's a lot of things that you've got to do, right? But I love that you turned it to, look, the work's going to take care of that. If I work and I do enough repetitions, like I could have zero vision and hit him on the hip every single time, like put it in the same spot. Yeah. It's about physically doing it, but then the consistency. And that's one thing I think people overlook is people want to have immediate trust without earning it. And they just want to, right? They just want to, well, why won't you give me this opportunity? You haven't been here. The dude that's showing up to work and is at the office, every single day at 7 a.m. and doesn't leave until 6, like he's going to catch more opportunities because he's there and people like, okay, I know that I can rely on him. And I love that you flipped it on that because that's so true. And not that you had a disability that they couldn't trust you. It's literally with everybody on the team, it's, can I trust you? I mean, it's a little dramatic, but we're putting our life on the line every day, going out here hitting each other. Like, again, very dramatic. Not parents, I promise you, your kid's not putting their life on the line. But it's like, hey, we're going to war. Can I trust you to do your job? And nothing builds trust more than consistency.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron, do you, and I think I know the answer based on how you're speaking here. Are you somebody that you need to have all the answers before you jump in, or are you like, no, I'm going to figure this out on the way as I go?
No, it's figuring out on the way, 100%. And, take that into the world of business. If you wait till you know everything, till you feel that you're ready, you're already going to lose. You're already behind. The people in business who say, go read 15 books and, learn from all of them, are the ones who lose in business. Not saying that reading is important. Reading is great. But the people who say, I'm going to try this, fail at it, read a book on it, implement what I learned and try it again and do it differently are the ones who win.
Yeah. Yeah. I think, doing this podcast the last 2.5 years, meeting however many hundreds of people we've met through this or however many people, that's a common theme. That's my biggest takeaway is I'm very much somebody, or I used to be very much somebody who had to sit back, paralysis by analysis. Mm-hmm. I want to make sure I have all the answers before I jump in. That's what this has taught me. Speaking of people like you, that's what that's taught me is no, make the mistakes. It's okay. Yeah. You're gonna screw up regardless, whether you have all the answers or not. So just go ahead and jump in and try it.
Yeah, just every time you do 20 push-ups, so at least you make mistakes, but you're swole.
At least I'm dumb and jacked at the same time. So you set this major goal, which, by the way, for anybody playing Division I football, I didn't play Division I football. It's a hard thing to accomplish. At what point did it start to look like, hey, this could happen for me? The Division I football could be a thing.
I think it was really summer before my senior year of high school. Junior year, I was okay. I was fine. But summer before senior year, I was ranked as one of the top long snappers in the nation. And I was ranked as one of the top overall prospects of any position in Massachusetts. Wow. And I knew that there was an opportunity. The thing with long snappers, though, is it's not like you're a top quarterback. Schools aren't knocking down your door to sign you. Right. And so, some schools reached out to me, but I had to do a lot of outreach. Yeah. It was my first introduction to sales. I cold emailed every single college coach in the country so many times until they either told me to stop or didn't respond. I cold called most schools in the country until I got answers. The amount of campuses I just showed up on and asked to talk to the coaches is ridiculous. I did whatever it took to get in front of coaches.
That's awesome.
That is amazing.
Where were you hoping to go? Where was your dream school?
I talked to coaches everywhere. I remember I was in North Carolina for one trip. So I showed up, they wouldn't respond to my emails or calls. So I showed up at UNC, I showed up at NC State and just, waited to try. I remember at UNC, I showed up and the person at the front desk was like, oh, well, so-and-so coach is in a meeting. I was trying to meet with the special teams coach. She was like, maybe if you come back in a few hours, you can meet with them. I'm sure that they did not expect me to come back in a few hours. I walked around campus for 4 hours. I had lunch, showed up right back there 4 hours later and sat there until he came out and met with me. Now, I didn't get an offer from UNC, but it's the point.
Yeah, dude, you got the dog in you.
So let me ask you this before I make a comment. Did you ever just out in front of the coach's office, in the parking lot,
just start snapping?
Not like that per se.
You should have set up a Coke can on a trash can and just started knocking that thing off.
So the reason I say that, we office at the Star, which is the headquarters for the Cowboys, and they have this. It's called the Tostitos Plaza, and because I think Fritos sponsor it.
Frito-Lay.
No, not Frito-Lay.
Fritos.
Just Fritos.
Yeah.
And so there's this turf field, but it would blow your mind how many guys go out there like fully padded, like with visors, and they'll like go run routes and have people like thinking that Jerry's going to look at him through the glass, which by the way is a gym. It's not even his offices. Through the glass, thinking that they're going to get a job that way. Like, I love the persistency. Like, hey, listen, I called, I emailed, I was in the area. I'm going to pop in. I just want to introduce myself. I'd love to just drop off some game tape. I needed you to put my face to my name, whatever your sales approach is.
Yeah.
But that's why I had to preface, because if you did,
these random people are just out on that field. Like,
oh yeah,
around.
once a week at least.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The way he's describing it, and it is,
great.
it's a lot creepier than it sounds like what you were doing. What you were doing is actually true hustle.
Yes.
And initiative.
That's what I'm saying.
So here's the question though: are any of them actually decent, or do they all need to be told?
Oh,
that, like,
no. Yeah, no, I think I saw a dude in like boxer briefs and a wife beater out there running the other day.
They're not
just
top rank
because
recruits.
he didn't have compression shorts or something.
Yeah, they're not top rank recruits. And I mean, you actually had a legitimate resume to go around and show up to these places. That I'm super impressed by that, honestly. I know Tyler's making fun of it, but
I'm not making fun of you, Aaron. I'm like, that is legit, because that's the way you do it. I mean, we're in sales. We do literally the same thing every day. But that would be like me going to like a tech company's office with a lease, and me sitting down in their conference room and just marking up a lease in their office. Like, see what I can do? See what I can do?
No, I'm actually sitting here thinking though, Aaron, you should come join a real estate firm, because with that hustle, dude, you would kill it in this business, because that's exactly what it takes, man. It takes how do you handle apparently pretty well rejection? I mean, it's like you don't care if you get a no. Apparently, rejection
doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know, if you get 27 no's, guess what? You're 27 no's closer to a yes. Like, you might get a yes on your 42nd time, but you're not going to get it on the first. You're not going to get it in the second. And the sooner that you can accept that, the more success you'll have. One of my main businesses is speaking. Mm-hmm. I send out hundreds, if not thousands of emails, cold emails. It's all automated. I have a whole system built every single day to people at companies, events, schools, wherever. You know how many of them respond? A very low percentage. But that's because, you have to factor in open rates, what goes into spam, whatever. Mm-hmm. But you got to send out 1,000 emails to get a couple of replies.
Yeah.
And I don't care. That's the whole reason why I've built a very successful speaking business, is because the amount of people that on a daily basis tell me that, like, how did you get my email? Don't contact me again, or please fuck off. Like, if I don't get one of those every single day by like 12, I'm like pretty disappointed in myself.
You're not hitting enough people if you don't get to those.
Exactly.
I love that.
So is that something that you had to just, like, dealing with rejection? Was that just something through repetition, or have you always been that way? Like, it just doesn't bother me.
I mean, just something you learn over time, I think. Like, whether it be applying, trying to get in front of coaches, whether it be trying to land a deal, whether it be, when you're younger and trying to ask out a girl, like, if you can't take rejection, you're not going to get anywhere.
Yeah.
You got to understand that, like, no's are good. Get you closer to the yes.
I think about how many talented people out there that never got an opportunity, never realized their potential, because they did exactly what you said not to do, right? Mm-hmm. They quit on the 30th try and not the 47th try when they got the yes. I mean, think about how many opportunities have been missed. Yeah. I mean, I myself, I don't handle rejection well. Like, I handle criticism really well, but I don't handle no's. I don't handle rejection well. I just think of all of the people out there that had the talent, that had the ability, that just didn't persist because they couldn't handle the rejection. Yeah. So keep talking through some of these rejection stories at colleges, right? Trying to get an opportunity to realize your dream.
Yeah. So, and I'm not going to name the school in this instance, but I
USC,
Maryland.
I'm not
Texas,
school, but
Harvard, Yale, Princeton.
we can go all day here. Fresno State.
No, they would have welcomed you with open arms, buddy.
Sorry, go ahead. We're idiots. Go ahead.
Oh God. I was at the school visiting, talking with this coach. He had invited me for an unofficial visit. I hadn't yet told him about my vision. And that was something back in high school, I think I really struggled with for a time of like, how do I tell these coaches about me being legally blind, if they didn't know already, and get that across. And so we had a visit, I walked around with the team with him. It went really well. And by the end of the visit, I was like, well, this has gone well. I might get an offer. I gotta tell him about my vision. It's something I just felt I had to do.
Yeah.
Told him about my vision. He seemed fine with it. Next week goes by, hadn't heard anything. Sent him an email, just one check in, didn't hear anything. The following week goes by and I saw that they offered a different long snapper. And, I was pissed. And in my mind, it was, is the fact that I told him that the thing that caused him not to give me that opportunity? And it was honestly very challenging. It was a hard moment. But the thing that I had to realize was, I can't change the fact that they didn't want me.
Yeah.
But what I could do is understand that I'm a very good long snapper. Some coach will, benefit from having me on their team. I can be pissed off for the next, 10 minutes or 1 hour or 12 hours or day. But after that day period passes, I can't think about it anymore. The biggest issue with most people, whether it be in sports, in business, in life, I don't care, any area, is that they let the no's, they let the failures, they let the rejections, they let the bad days turn into bad weeks, turn into bad months, turn into bad years. Yeah. If you can take a situation and say, can I control what just happened? No? Okay. I'm going to be pissed off for the next hour. I don't care. Go punch a hole in your wall if you want. It doesn't affect me. And then get over it and then move on to the next opportunity. But most people let it fester and focus on it for the next week and get nothing else done.
Yeah.
That's good.
No, that's excellent advice. It's just, how do you apply it if you do struggle with it,
Yeah, I think you got to identify it. Your point is like, can I control it or can I change it? That's the other thing too, right? Like, it's not in my control to change the past. Like, something already happened. There's nothing. Is there something I can? I think that's the question. Is there something I can do to change the outcome?
Yep.
Okay. And then if the answer is no, then okay. Like, yeah, like you said, it's okay to have that mourning period where it's like, man, I'm just pissed. Like I am, and that's okay. I think it's healthy, but then like you said, move on.
Do you think that ability for you comes from the fact that you were born, with your vision impaired? Like, and that's something that you literally can't do anything about?
Maybe I'm not exactly sure there, but here's the thing, and this might answer your question in a very indirect way, but I say it all the time when I talk of, things in life happen for you and not to you. And so I am so grateful, so thankful, so blessed that I was born legally blind, because being legally blind has allowed me to have incredible experiences, meet amazing people, and have just outstanding opportunities. Who knows if I would have played Division I football? Who knows if I would have been team captain or an NFL free agent or, been a successful speaker and entrepreneur? I probably wouldn't have been most of those things if I wasn't legally blind. And so I can only look back on that situation with gratitude, with thankfulness, with understanding that like it is the best thing that's ever happened to me.
So far, man, lots impressive about you, but three attributes that are sticking out is your ability to handle rejection, your ability to move on from things that you have no control over, and that last thing that you just said. That's impressive, because you're totally right. We hear all these things, we hear all these lessons, but until we actually have to apply it, they don't really mean much. They're just words. But for you, I can tell you actually live it.
Yeah, it's a funny story for you on the whole getting over rejection piece. And I didn't come up with this. A friend of mine, who's also, an entrepreneur and built multiple businesses, someone asked him one time, hey, I have a fear of rejection, a fear of failure, people, I'm always afraid of people judging me, how do I get over it? And he was like, all right, you know what I want you to do? I want you to go to the nearest Whole Foods. I want you to go to the middle of an aisle. And I just want you to lie down in the middle of the aisle and just stay there for like a solid 2 minutes. And the amount of people and count the amount of people that say something to you. No one said anything to him because no one gives a shit. No one cares about you as much as you think they do.
I'm going to go try that.
Something ridiculous like that will get you to get over the whole fear of failure and fear of rejection.
Oh, you nailed it right there.
I mean, how many of us think that we are the center of the universe? Everything that I do, everybody around me judges, and they're talking about it when they go home. No, they are not. Like, think about how many people you think about during the day. Very rarely are you worried about anybody else. We're all so self-centered. We all think the universe revolves around us. Yeah. So why would everyone else think about you? They're in their own universe. Yeah. That's a good point. All right. So, dude, you keep distracting. I want to go back to this recruiting process. And okay, we established that Yale, the coach, they signed somebody else.
Yeah, I hate the freaking USC Trojans. I hate them now.
Oh, the worst. Okay, so you see this other guy. This was this after your senior season, or was this leading up to your senior season?
I don't remember. I think the summer in between junior and senior year.
Okay. See, you handle rejection so well, you don't even remember that. That's awesome. But you did end up going to No.
Go, Aaron. Go. Talk us through the rest of that process.
Yeah. So I just kept contacting schools, kept doing that outreach, and eventually got an opportunity to play at Tulane, and it was a perfect fit. The coaches were totally fine with it. They were happy to have me, and then I went to Tulane. It was a great opportunity.
What was that recruiting trip like to Tulane? Like, how did you know this is the place for me?
Yeah. I think I forget if I had mentioned to them beforehand or not about me being legally blind. I'm not sure. But, when the coach and I were talking for a couple months and he was like, look, we want to, give you an offer to come here. I was like, great. Well, I want to see the school first. So I went down, went for a visit, walked around the facility, talked with them. And, I just straight up told him in the meeting again, same as the Maryland coach, but just said, look, I think you know this already, but this is my vision. This is my situation. As you can tell, it doesn't affect how I play mostly, but, it's something that you need to know. And he was totally fine with it.
Sweet.
And he was like, look, if you can play, you can play. Yeah. And he gave me that opportunity.
I think he just admitted the school that, that rejected him.
Just breeze over it. So Tulane is culturally, right? It's just New Orleans is very different than Boston. What was that transition like for you?
It was definitely different in the beginning because it's, however many thousand miles away from home as 18, but it was an incredible experience. Awesome. I mean, I don't know if I would want to live in New Orleans now or not. I don't know, but living in New Orleans from 18 to 22 is probably the absolute best time.
Probably no better place in the country, arguably, right? I mean, all the other cool spots, Vegas, Miami, LA, New York, that's all too expensive. You can't afford anything. Like
New Orleans, is pretty cheap. Yeah. The food is insane. Yeah. The nightlife is ridiculous. Yeah. The, freaking Mardi Gras, it was such a fun time.
Awesome. I went and visited my freshman year in college. Had a buddy that went to Tulane, and I was coming from a small private Christian school, and so Tulane was quite the different experience. But it's also a damn good school. Like, it's hard to get into. So kudos to you for not only playing ball, but the grade you must have had to get accepted into Tulane.
Yeah, no, thank you. I mean, definitely football helped to an extent, but I appreciate that.
Yeah. What did you choose to major in? What was your?
I studied finance.
Oh, okay. So you are a smart man.
Yeah, way smarter.
Quick, 600 times 43. Just kidding.
So I mean, I guess walk us through college career, right? It's a different level of intensity. It's not now, hey, I gotta squeeze football in around life, right? Fit it in. Now it's like, okay, everything else is built around football, like your class schedule, your tutoring, all of this stuff is built into your schedule. So now you're just immersed in it. And then, go to class when you can. Well, I went to class when I could.
Yeah. He's a finance major. He had to go to class.
I felt like it, but I was a college major.
You were human studies or some weird fake major.
It was either criminal science, Black history, or comm, and I chose comm. Yeah.
So what was the college experience like, other than the fun?
For me in the beginning, it was understanding that I was at the bottom of the totem pole, on the team. It was understanding that no one cares what you did in high school. No one cares how good you are. No one cares what awards you won. No one gives a shit. Mm-hmm. It was, you are a part of a team. you are a freshman. You may play, you may not, but you need to understand that in the beginning, you are not going to be a starter. You are not going to see the field, and understand that I had a lot to learn. I had a long way to go. And that's how I kind of treated it in the beginning.
Did you redshirt that freshman year, or were you suited up?
So I suited up. I didn't play my freshman year, but I suited up.
Okay. Yeah, specialists typically, like,
There's
in
no
the
red
case
shirt?
of an emergent. No, you still redshirt. It's just a matter of you play.
Gotcha.
Just because you dress, it doesn't matter. But
Yeah.
typically, all of the specialists on the roster will dress just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
So-
It really depends how many specialists there are on the roster, but yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, a good amount.
How many other
Yeah.
long snappers were you competing with?
So at the time, it was me and really one other guy. I mean, we had more during other years, but my freshman year was me and one other guy, and he was older. He had started the year before. Like, he was the starter.
The return, the incumbent.
Okay, so you get through your freshman year, and you said you didn't get to play much. Were there any thoughts of, maybe this isn't, I'm just not cut out for this? Doesn't sound like you have that mentality, but
No, I loved it. It was my favorite thing in the world. I loved it. My sophomore year, I played for the first time. My first game was in October against University of Central Florida. And after that, 2 months later, my coaching staff actually got fired because we went 3-9 my freshman and sophomore year. And so I was put in this position of uncertainty, of not knowing what was going to happen, of frustration, of fear, because I had the assumption that I contacted every coach in the country. This was the one that gave me that shot. The new ones coming in, I probably contacted and they told me no or didn't get back to me. Why would they give me a shot here? And so it created all this anxiety in me, honestly. And I thought about quitting football. I thought about transferring schools to play a different team without even having that discussion. And when they came in, I ended up sitting down with the head coach. We had a conversation. He had heard of me, but didn't know a ton. And, he was uncertain as well because he just didn't know the best way to work with me. It never worked with someone like me. And we had a conversation. We basically just said, let's do spring ball and see what happens. If we have to have this talk again, then we'll have this talk again. And we not only do we never have that talk again, but 2 years later, he named me a team captain during my senior year.
That's awesome.
What
Who
a
was that
story.
staff? Who was the head coach that came in?
Coach Fritz.
Fritz. Okay.
is he still there?
He is. Coach
Okay.
Willie Fritz. He came from Georgia Southern. Amazing
I know
person,
that,
great mentor and friend of mine.
So you start playing a little bit your sophomore year. Staff gets fired. Do you play junior, senior year? Are you the starter?
Yeah. I played a good amount for field goals, but I didn't ever do punts there because we ran a spread style
The
punt,
Australian.
and so it would not have been safe for me to run downfield and in a Division I game. Now in high school that was different.
Yeah.
My coaches told me not to run downfield, and I would run downfield. I didn't care. In practice at school too, at Tulane, they would tell me stay there, don't run downfield. I didn't care. I would snap the ball and I would release and sprint as fast as I could, and try and knock the shit out of someone. But in that moment, my teammates knew, okay, like you can hit Aaron, but like don't knock the shit out of him on the side that he can't see.
Right.
Yeah.
Now,
Right.
In an actual game, no one on the other team's going to know that. So I didn't do
Yeah.
punts in college.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, all right. So get named captain. What did that mean to you? What, I mean, what did that tell you about your journey?
It was one of the greatest moments there at school. I was so happy, so thankful for it because it showed that not only was I, a good player, but I was able to prove that I did what I said I was going to do. I was a leader. I was willing to put the team before myself, and my coaches realized the hard work, the dedication that I was putting in each and every day on the field, in the weight room, in the classroom with my teammates to get to where I wanted to go and where I wanted to get us to go. And it meant a lot.
What did you think about when you found out you were a team captain? Like, did your mind go back to the 7th grade, 8th grade, all those early mornings? What was going through your head when you found that out?
I mean, in the moment, it was just soaking it up and being thankful for it and living in the moment right then and there. I think afterwards, it was really thinking about, what led to that.
Yeah.
One thing that in high school, I wasn't a captain. I was honestly actually pretty annoyed and pissed off my senior year of high school that I wasn't a captain. I thought I deserved it because, I was the one up at 5 a.m. every day practicing. I was in the weight room every day. And I thought I, deserved it more than anyone on the team, and I wasn't named captain. And that pissed me off. And, I got over it. But I realized, and when I was named a captain in college, that meant so much. And I was like, well, you know what? I did it. it was at a much higher level. And I did.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, all right, being a captain in high school is a whole lot less significant than this right here. This means so much more.
Yeah, no one cares 10 years later if you were a captain in high school. No one cares 2 years later if you're a captain in high school.
Yeah.
No doubt.
No.
So
well, some people care, the ones that were captains. They keep telling you 20 years later.
I care because I still wear my letter jacket to team function.
Okay, you call it letter jacket?
Yeah, what do you
call it letterman or do you call it letter jacket?
Letterman.
Letterman, yeah.
Yeah, we call it letter jacket.
That's so weird. Y'all in West Texas are just a different breed.
Well, that's a fact. So you accomplished this Division I goal. Were there any thoughts, hey, I want to go play professionally now?
Yeah, so after my senior year, I didn't want to stop. I wanted to play in the NFL. I wanted to make it, so I started training for my pro day. I flew out to San Diego for part of the spring semester and trained with John Carney and a bunch of his NFL and D1 kickers, punters, and long snappers, and got ready for my pro day. Did very well, honestly, and talked to a couple teams and continued the conversation afterwards and tried to keep it going, but eventually it didn't work out, and I pivoted away from it into the world of business and other opportunities.
So go ahead.
I was just gonna say, what made you decide it's not going to work out? Meaning they rejected you, but why did you handle this rejection in a different way than you had previously?
Yeah, I think there's a few reasons. Like, could I have bounced around between camps and been a free agent for a while and tried to make a team and maybe had made one 4 years later? Yeah, maybe I could have. I don't know. But I think a couple things. In the NFL, there's no backup long snappers on teams, really. I mean, yes, like you said earlier when we were talking, maybe a linebacker or a tight end or someone else can snap. But on the physical roster, there's usually really only one. So that means there's 32 spots.
Yeah.
If a long snapper doesn't get hurt or screw up, they're there for 10 or 15 years, which means it's typically pretty hard for a spot to open up.
Right.
At the same time, I also had a lot of other interests, a lot of other things that I wanted to do. And, look, I had this idea that if I was going to make a team, I was going to make it now. That was my goal. But I didn't want to be that person who set aside all my other goals, waited 6 years to make it, never make it, and then put myself 6 years behind. Yeah. And so that's kind of what my focus was.
Yeah, no, me and you kind of went through the same thought process. Tyler, on the other hand, said, no, I am going to stick it out. I am going to, and it ended up working out for
6
him.
years later, I'm just kidding.
3 years later.
three.
No, but I do think, like me and you, we decided, hey, we got these other interests. Let's move on with life. Tyler did not, and it worked out. So I think about that.
Let's be clear. I had other interests, but I just had not moved on.
No, he's a dumb football player. That's all he cared about.
Nothing else going for him, and it was like, hey, this is the only reason that you're alive, so keep chasing it.
No, but I do think about that sometimes is, should I have pushed harder? Should I have tried? Should I have gone and played in Canada? Should I have played Arena League? Did you have any of those regrets at all?
I wouldn't say regrets. I'm thankful for where I, ended up. Do I wish sometimes that I had made a team and would I have loved to, been playing on Sundays? Absolutely. But I don't regret the path I took. I don't regret the choices I made by any means. I made the right decision for me. Would it have been nice to, been playing for an NFL team? Absolutely. But, I think the things happen in the way they're supposed to. And, I might not be doing the things I'm doing today if I had actually made a team.
Yeah. So I want to transition to those other interests that you're talking about at post football. But I've been kind of wrestling. Do I ask this now? Do I ask this at the end of the show? But football, Aaron, gave you a path / purpose / and I want to loosely say this because it doesn't come from me, but I'm sure there's some identity wrapped up in that too, right? Mm-hmm. You overcame obstacles.
Yeah.
You worked harder than everybody. You were that guy. Like you said, you were pissed. Like, hey, I'm here working more than everybody else. Like, I'm putting everything I am to this. So innately, identity becomes attached to that position, right? The hard worker, the football player. So now you walk away and even just to say, like, the identity, I'm sure there was press and publicity saying, hey, the first legally blind Division I football player ever. Like, you were that guy. Like, that's a big, big deal. But, like, as you transition out of it, now you're stepping away from that. I used to be that guy as opposed to I am that guy. How did you handle that? All right, I want to take a quick minute to talk about our partner, Choctaw Casino and Resort. We are really, really humbled and grateful to be a partner for them. If you've listened to this show for any amount of time, you've heard how great the resort is there, how great the casino is, the new expansion. They've doubled in size, 3,000 new slots. They've got unbelievable sports bar. They've got unbelievable restaurants, unbelievable movie theaters, arcades for kids. It is endless, the things that they've not only improved but added. But it's just the experience that they provide is second to none. Choctaw Nation has done an incredible job with the community, with philanthropy, with support. They have just done incredible things. So we are extremely humbled and grateful to partner with Choctaw Casino and Resort. Make sure, I know you know it, it's just a short drive up 75. Go check them out. And now back to the episode.
The first year out was definitely challenging. It was really hard. I went into the world of finance directly after college. Took a job in the wealth management world.
At least you picked something exciting, riveting.
I was about to say no offense, but
stadiums full of people watching you do spreadsheets.
You couldn't pick a more opposite career than football and finance.
So went into that field, and I was essentially at the beginning I was working for financial advisors. I was a private wealth associate, doing the back end bullshit like you just said.
You said it, not us.
I hinted at it.
I hated it. I was miserable. I missed football. I hated what I was doing. And, I didn't hate the area I was in at the time. And I'll get into more of this in a bit. But so I didn't like the situation I was in at all. I missed football. It was a challenge. And I eventually, networked my way. At the time I was living in Washington, D.C. for the first year after college. Decided that I wanted to network my way into a role as an actual financial advisor. And so I did that and moved to back to Boston, where I got a role as a financial advisor, and, did that for a few years. And my goal at the time was I want to, manage, billions of dollars for clients, be one of, the top people in the country, in the world. And, I by no means got anywhere close to billions of dollars. That would have taken 30 years. But, I did decently for myself, but I never enjoyed it. I really didn't. It wasn't fun. It wasn't something I wanted to continue to do the rest of my life. While I was doing that, I built a business for myself as a speaker, where, I had a lot of experience in college and high school for interviews. I was on Good Morning America. I was on, so many other things and asked to speak, when my coaches wanted me to. And so realized that I wanted to build something for myself. And in the beginning it was, how do I create an additional stream of revenue? And when I started, it was like, if I get paid, $500, $1,000 to talk somewhere, that extra $1,000 a month, who wouldn't want that? And that was my thought in the beginning.
500 or 1,000. I was like, dude, hook me up. I'll take half of it.
It sounded like you said 500,000.
500 dash 1,000.
Or 1,000.
Okay.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah. And so that, it built very quickly and, built into something where, I was speaking all over all the time, both virtually and in person, and making a lot more than that. And I eventually left the world of finance and continued to grow that. And now I'm in a place where, I've expanded on that. So I don't need to, travel as much all the time to do it. And it's led to other business opportunities where, my business now focuses on, speaking for me and other people that are involved with our team, booking them to speak, as well as, workshops and consulting with companies and sports teams and events on different topics.
So you're not in finance at all anymore?
No.
So how did you make that decision?
He handles his own finances.
Yeah, seriously. And now I do make 500,000. How did you decide, okay, I don't like, maybe the decision was obvious, but I don't like this. How did you decide to walk away and transition?
Because I knew that when I was building things and being an entrepreneur and doing what I wanted to do, I loved every second of it. And when I was going to work in a suit every day and dealing with clients and their problems and issues that I just didn't want to deal with, I wasn't enjoying it.
Yeah.
And so it was pretty obvious to me to go full into what I was building.
Yeah. Did you have like a plan in place, or were you like, nope, I'm out. This sucks. I'm doing something different.
I had already built my speaking business to the point where I was making good money from it. And so, I was in the process of developing it to, what it is now with other areas. But, I was comfortable that I was saying, even if I leave finance, I'm making good money from speaking, so I can leave this.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that there's this myth that to be an entrepreneur, you have to like give up everything, start from scratch, and you have to live off of top ramen. Like in order to be a real entrepreneur, that's what you have to do. And that's not the case, right? No. You can build something while you're doing your day job. But
that's the smart thing. That's the smart way to do it is like, look, build something while you're doing something else. It doesn't need to be that you're making, $100,000 a month, or $50,000 a month or whatever, but build something to cover your expenses. Yeah. And then when you're, 70% of what you need is there, then you quit your 9 to 5, you quit your job, because then you go all into it and your income is going to skyrocket because you're focusing even more on it.
Yeah. That's what an intelligent financial planner would say right there. Well done. You should still be a financial planner.
No, no, he needs to speak in front of people and teach people these things. So,
you want me to be your agent?
All right. So when did you, take us back to years. When did you graduate college?
May of 2018. So a little over 2 years ago.
Okay. So you had a couple years of being a financial advisor, and then did you start the public speaking thing pre-COVID?
Yeah, I started it probably like end of 2019. So only a handful of months before, honestly. Okay. And I was, I had done a lot of speaking before that, but it was all for free. Yeah. It was all, so I was fairly decent at it by then, but it was all for free. And so I went into COVID when most people who were speakers, their businesses were getting destroyed because all the live events were done. I took it and I said, how can I make a name for myself while everyone else is screwing up and build something from scratch? And I got really good at automation, got really good at cold outreach, got really good at, how do you book, virtual events? I did in the next next couple of years because of COVID, I also did 8 TED Talks. Most of them were virtual. I did 2 in person, and that wasn't my goal. My goal was like, let's do 1 or 2 just to get them on my resume. Yeah. And I can talk about this more in a minute, but like getting a TED Talk is a lot less impressive than most people think it is. And I can talk you through how I actually did that.
No, don't tell the secret. It's impressive.
Yeah, super impressive.
Go with that.
Yeah.
But I realized, so many of these people wanted me to speak. And so I landed a handful of them. And, I just kept doing that same process to get myself booked and paid to speak both virtually and in person. And, it's just grown, so much. I have speeches all the time. I have, I'm going to the middle of nowhere in Canada in November to work with a company for a couple of days.
Nice.
Literally in the middle of nowhere. Like I'm.
What town is it? Regina?
Red Lakes, Canada.
Oh, that's really a name. And by the way, I didn't say it with a V. It's an R.
Saskatchewan Rough Riders, right?
Yeah. Regina.
Yeah. Talk to us about virtual versus in person. We're having a great time, but we would be having an even better time if you were here in person or if we were there with you in person. Talk to us about that dynamic as a speaker.
First off, next time I'm in Dallas, we should do it. I'll actually be in Dallas this fall, so maybe we'll maybe we'll meet up.
Let us know. We'll do a whole thing. We'll have you come speak to our team too. I think that would be awesome.
Absolutely. I'm speaking at an event in Dallas this fall, so I'll let you guys know after this. But
perfect.
In person is always more fun. It's so much better because the environment, the culture, the energy in the room, like there's no better feeling and no closer feeling to playing in a game in front of thousands of people than being on stage in front of thousands of people. Like that's such a good feeling.
Agreed.
And, you can't necessarily control the fact that so many companies weren't doing in person and a lot of them still aren't. And so if you want to make money, if you want to improve, you have to adapt and you have to learn how to engage people over, a virtual event.
Yeah.
And, yes, I would prefer in person, but at the same time, like the fact that I can get paid very well to sit at home at my computer and talk to a company is outstanding.
Yes, please.
Yeah. And it helps, your message helps, whether it's virtual, whether it's in person, because it's authentic, it's legitimate. It's not, you're not just spewing something you read in a book somewhere. You're talking about your life here and the challenges that you've had to overcome. And it comes through, man. It's impressive. Again, those 3 attributes I talked about earlier, but it's just impressive. Just the way that you speak and your messaging, again, it's not fake.
Yeah.
It's legit.
Yeah. So I agree. I want to go back to your point about replicating that feeling. And one thing that athletes struggle with coming out of whatever their respective sport, right, is that high that comes with competing. And I would agree that speaking, which, you know, is well, everybody talks about it, right? One of the number one fears for someone is to get up and speak in front of an audience. Yeah. And I'll also agree that I sweat just as much for speaking as I did during football games. And by the way, my wife could find me on the field because my pants were always a different color than everybody else out there because I sweat so much. So if I ever speak to your company, if you're hearing me, I apologize in advance for how much I sweat up on stage. It's a little awkward. It gets weird. But as you're pursuing this speaking career and building the business of bringing on other speakers and getting them coached up and trained them, and then working with companies on, you know, a consulting basis. So what is the next move for you? You mentioned you're moving. So let's talk through that next move for you and why California, the strategic move there. And
yeah. So my girlfriend moved to California back in October for work. And I mean, that's the reason I'm moving out there, to be near her. And I've basically been flying back and forth between Boston and LA the past like 9-10 months. And it has, on top of like all my other travel for things, it's been a lot, and we've been able to make it work, but I no longer have a need to be in Boston long term. And who knows, maybe we'll move back here down the road, but she's staying there for the time being. So I'm moving out there and, you know, looking forward to that.
Where is she from originally?
She's from outside of Boston as well, a different town, but outside of Boston.
Did y'all meet during, after, before college?
So after college, the summer before COVID.
Okay.
Good for you.
All right. So
sorry, go ahead. No. Is there an advantage to being in LA for what you're doing? Does that give you a benefit at all?
You know, I think there will be, realistically. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, what I'm doing is, you know, building a company that does speaking engagements, does workshops, does consulting. And so, you know, I can do that from wherever, because a lot of it's virtual, a lot of it's, you know, in person that I have to travel across the country or wherever. But, you know, a lot of the people I'm trying to get connected with, you know, to be on my team and to work with us for other speakers that we'll work with are very well-known athletes, entrepreneurs, executives. And I think being in LA will give me the opportunity to network and to hopefully get more into some of those circles that I want to get myself into. Yeah. And so, you know, it will definitely be a good thing, I think, for my business, at least for the next few years.
I would agree with you. I mean, still, even after the exodus that you're seeing, the Toyotas leave, you're seeing all these large corporations leave California, still has more corporate headquarters than any other state. So, I mean, the amount of business that is done from an economy standpoint, I mean, I don't know the most recent, but I mean, it's a top 5 economy globally. And so when you look at it, at the opportunity for what you're doing, no doubt there can be a strategic advantage for being there. It's just the travel, right? Like if it's harder to go. So what I'm doing here, by the way, subtly selling Dallas because it's in the middle point.
It's in the middle.
It's exactly. But I mean, you know, if you got to fly to New York or Boston or Miami, I mean, that's a whole day of travel, man. I mean, if you could literally leave in the morning from Dallas and be in Miami for a 10 o'clock speech. I'm just saying. I mean, just.
I mean, but so the goal of the company, and it's not to be like a typical speakers bureau where, you know, 5,000 people are listed on it and you can book anyone. But, you know, the goal is to build out a team of other very well-known people, whether it's athletes, executives, entrepreneurs, people like that we can really train up on the topics that we focus on. And eventually we'll expand on the topics that we're focusing on. And that way we can, you know, place them and book them to speak. They get a cut, I get a cut around the country at these events that want us to come into. And yes, I'll still do certain events, but then it's a lot less travel. You know, if we have someone in Miami who we work with, or in Florida who we work with, and a company wants us to come speak on leadership, I can say, look, you know, if you specifically want me, we can make it happen. Or we have XYZ, who's a big name person, and they can come down and be there, you know, for this date, and it's a lot easier. And that's the goal. So it's a lot less taxing on me.
Yeah. That's a great idea. What's the company called?
Initiate Connections.
Initiate Connections. So when you get an athlete, executive, whoever, you know, on your team that speaks, let's just say they've got a really cool story, but they don't have a format. What do you do with them first and foremost to be able to build the content, to be able to that presents well to a company?
Yeah, so we're in the process of building this out, like, as we speak, because you know, we have a couple people on board, but we're really trying to get to about, you know, me plus 8 to 12 other people. top tier people in the next like 2 months, 3 months. So that's a question that we're really developing right now, and finding the right people that we want to bring on, because we're not just going to take on any random person. In the beginning, it wants to be a small group of these people that are, really good at what they do. And so, we have 4 areas that we focus on right now for the time being that I think are the most looked for speaking topics that companies and events look for. And we will expand over time. But right now it's overcoming obstacles or overcoming adversity, leadership development, peak performance and business growth, and diversity and inclusion. And so, yes, a speaker who has a unique story can come in and talk about their unique story. They have to do that. That's what makes them a good speaker, that makes them charismatic, that makes them, connect. But at the same time, it's, if a company wants you to speak on leadership development, we talk you through our thought process, our framework, what we're doing within leadership development. And yes, we need to make sure that you tailor that to fit your own message and fits well with you, but we will help you get that together, if you are not already, an expert on XYZ topic.
Yeah.
Is it more like speeches, or is it interactive seminars, for lack of a better term? Like, is this hands-on type learning training, or is it more just the speaker stands up in front of me and gives me a good speech?
There's combinations. It depends what a company's looking for. And so it could be anywhere from an hour-long keynote to, small group workshops to, a 6-month, 12-month consulting agreement that combines keynotes, workshops, seminars, things like that. And so it just depends on what the organization is looking for. And we don't really know that until we have a discussion with them. And sometimes it's super simple. It's, hey, we have an event, we want a speaker. Okay, you clearly just want a speaker. Sometimes it's, hey, we have done a really bad job of leadership development. We want help building this out. Maybe that's a consulting opportunity. Maybe that's just a day-long workshop. I don't know. It's figuring out what's a best fit for them.
Yeah, it seems to me that's, as a business owner, that would be more valuable for my people, a more interactive approach, a more seminar type, as opposed to a speech. These days you can get a good speech online. You can get a good speech on a podcast.
No, I agree.
And so having somebody come. Sorry, go ahead.
No, keep going. Keep going.
I was just going to say that to me is what's appealing about what y'all are doing, which is, hey, we're going to come in and we're going to learn something. We're not just going to get a good rah, hoorah speech. We're actually going to get something out of this.
Oh, I 100% agree. I think the workshops, the seminars, the consulting aspect are the parts that we're trying to build out more and grow. We've done a good amount of it, but we're trying to grow that the most, because yes, I do speeches, just one-off speeches all the time when companies want me to come in, but that's typically more for like, they have an event, like their annual conference, their annual event. But if you want real growth, real change in your business, in your company, then a seminar, consulting, a workshop is a better fit.
Yeah, agreed.
I agree. And on the other side of that, though, we can always find good speeches and all this, but I feel like there's a much bigger risk as a company that you could have a terrible one too, right? Because there's so many people out there that have done something really cool or important in their life. Yeah. That doesn't automatically make them a good public speaker or have good content, because I've heard people that, like, some people that they've raved about, and I'm not going to say names because I highly respect these people, but then you hear them actually give a presentation. It's like, have you ever thought about a process? Have you ever thought about structure? Have you ever thought about what you're trying, like what message you want them to walk? Because most people are pretty good about talking about themselves, but how do you give a speech to somebody where you're talking about everybody in the audience while using life experiences, right? And so that's the difference, because there's some awful ones out there. Well-known people have cool stories, best at their craft, whatever it may be, but that doesn't automatically make them a good speaker. So it's a higher risk just to be a speaker, right? Hey, we're going to cut a check for, $20,000 to get this speaker to come, for our big company retreat. But then it's like, not much ROI on that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
No. And that's the biggest thing you have to learn when you're doing it is, like, yes, you want to tell your story, but how do you relate your story, the examples, your message back to everyone else? And that's something that you have to just figure out how to do. And it comes with time. And the more you practice it, the more you work on it, the better, easier it becomes. Yeah. But if you can't relate it back to others, like, yes, there are some people who would probably love to hear me get up and just talk about my life in football for an hour. But I guarantee you 50% of the room is like, this has no interest to me. I don't care.
Yeah. How does this make me a better mom?
That to other people?
Yeah. How does this make me a better salesperson? How does this make me? Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah. So let's talk about some practical application. You mentioned a couple of things you did when you were trying to get better at football. What are some things that you do on a daily basis now as a business owner? Like, what are some of your habits? What are some of your rituals? What do you do now?
Yeah, I think the biggest things are being consistent with my daily actions. There are certain things that every single day I need to do despite, the noise and despite what's going on. And not every day, everything that I need to get done gets done, but I have the core things that need to get done. Focusing on yourself, I think, is really important. Every single morning, at least while I'm on the East Coast and things may change, my schedule may change a bit when I'm in LA, but I love, waking up and going to the gym at, 5:30 in the morning still, 5 in the morning still, because I get up and I go there before anyone's emailing me, calling me, texting me, sending me messages. And it's the time that I can have by myself to focus on me and lifting weights and doing something I enjoy. Amen. Now, when I get to LA, my schedule has been different when I've been out there, but it may be a different time of day that I do that, because if I wake up at 6 a.m. or something, that's already 9 on the East Coast. If a company wants to talk to me at 9 a.m. Eastern, I'm going to take that call. So a lot of the times I work out later in the day, but it's, figuring out different routines that I think work for you.
What about, I know you mentioned books earlier that you're big about action and not necessarily consuming, but are there anything that books, podcasts, anything that you do consume that you found helpful?
Yeah. There's tons of things I've read a lot of books. There's, I'm actually not reading one right now. I need to pick a new one. But I think my biggest thing with that is I like to read books. Yes. I like to listen to podcasts. Yes. But I think the issue that when most people talk about, you need to read 30 minutes a day, or you need to read whatever a day, is they're focusing so much on just getting it done versus what do you enjoy? What are you actually learning from it? Yep. So there's, weeks that I read, every single day and I learn from it. There's also weeks that go by that I probably don't read a book. That's right now, honestly, I'm not reading any book right now. And I'll pick something up again soon probably and read it and, enjoy it and learn from it. But I don't listen to podcasts just to say that I, did it.
Yeah. Well, I'm like you, Aaron. I only read when Ben guilts me into it or tricks me into some sort of challenge that we're doing. That's the only time I read.
Yeah, so. No, I'll speak to that from personal experience that you're exactly right. You can get caught up in the feel good of, I'm reading right now, or, I'm consuming this podcast. It feels good to consume because it feels like you're accomplishing something. But you're exactly right. It's more about what am I taking away from this than it is actually doing the act of reading the book or listening to the podcast. So you're right, Tyler. If you're not getting anything out of the challenge, then don't do the challenge. That's all I'm saying.
Well, no. You know what I'm going to get out of it? I'm going to be $500 poorer. That's what I'm going to get out of it.
We're doing a dumb, fun little brain challenge right now. We talked about exercise your aging brain, and the loser has to pay the other person $500. So Tyler doesn't want to quit because he doesn't want to pay me, but his heart's not in it. I can tell his heart's not in it. He doesn't want to do it.
I like the puzzle days. I'm good at those.
Yeah. Anyway, enough about us. No, that's good, man. And so you said, sorry, the company's called what again?
Initiate Connections.
Initiate Connections. How can people? I'm assuming there's a website. How can people get connected?
Yeah. So,
how can we initiate connections to your company?
Yeah. So the website is currently unfortunately being rebuilt at this second. It will hopefully be live by Friday again. So everything.
Well, guess what? By the time this airs, it will be live.
That's right.
So we're good.
Yeah,
perfect.
We're good.
So initiateconnections.com. My personal website is aarongolub.com, and feel free to reach out if I can help in any way. I always on podcasts I go on look, my main email is aaron@aarongolub.com. Email me if I can help you in any way. I'll do it. The reason I give that out is because 99.99999% of people will never reach out to me. And that's okay.
Yeah.
But the point, 1% of people that actually do, I will respond to you and I will help you to the best of my ability.
Yeah. Prank emails are just not as effective as prank calls used to be back in the day. If you were to give your home phone number out back in the day, you have people calling you, right?
For sure. And your personal, you got an Instagram. Do you have a YouTube channel as well?
Yeah, so Instagram and Twitter are both Aaron J. Golub. My YouTube is just, Aaron Golub. I'm not right now as active on YouTube as I want to be, but I'll be getting back more to that soon.
Yeah. We'll throw it out when we get this going. So we'll share Aaron's Instagram profile, and then we'll get you some additional information to him. So
and I tell all entrepreneurs this: there's a market out there for documenting the journey of an entrepreneur. And so if you're not doing that's a niche. That's something I know. I'm personally. I know there's a lot of people interested in just watching that. It's the weirdest thing. Like, you don't think like people want to see my day. That's weird. People want to see your day. They want to see what you're doing. They want to know, okay, what's Aaron? He's super successful. How does he go about his day? So I would encourage you to do that if you're not already. But man, this was
so. Ben, are you documenting your day?
No, I'm not interesting. But back to Aaron. So man, your story's awesome. When we connected and saw what you've overcome and what you've accomplished in such a short. 26 years old. I feel very under accomplished at 34. But man, it's inspiring. It's encouraging. It's all the things that we're about here on the One Shot Podcast. So man, we really appreciate your time, appreciate your message. Know that you're impacting a lot of people, and people are going to get a lot out of this, man. So we appreciate your time. Yeah,
thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. When you're in Dallas, hit us up.
Yeah, hit us up. Let us know.
Yeah, we'll do.
Hang on here for a sec after we get done. But hey, good luck in California. Just wish all the best for you, and looking forward to continue following your journey, and then connect and see if we can send you some business.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, awesome. All right, man. Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Aaron. Thanks, guys.